across the Department of Defense, whether that's utilization, fitness, whatever it is. So I work for those two guys. I'm also part of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Senior Enlisted Advisor team. Along with me on that team is Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force Kay Wright, Sergeant Major of the Army Dan Daly, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps Ron Green, Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy Steve Giordano, Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard Steve Cantrell. But here on the 17th of May, it'll be who, Coasties? Vander Hayden. Good job. All right. And also the National Guard Bureau, Command Senior Enlisted Leader Army, Command Sergeant Major Chris Kettner. And we, as a collective group of senior non-commissioned officers, focus on the organizing, training, and equipping of the Joint Force. And obviously those guys are advisors to their service chiefs, as I am an advisor to the chairman and the Secretary of Defense. But I'm also part of the team that comprises the combatant command senior enlisted leaders. How many combatant commands are there? Anybody know? Huh? Dang. You guys are, did you guys get any sleep last night? There's 10. Well, as of this Friday, there'll be 10 when Cybercom gets elevated to a combatant command. But there's 6 geographical combatant commands and 4 functional combatant commands. And out of those 10 COCOMs, there's 4 Marines. Sometimes I think the Marine Corps is trying to do a takeover of the entire Department of Defense here. 4 Marines, 3 Airmen, 2 soldiers, and 1 sailor. Those guys and I focus on the operational environment, meaning what are we doing every day to fight and win in Central Command or assure allies in Pacific Command or deter aggression in places like Africa Command and European Command and other places around the world. So this keeps me pretty busy. And I've been doing this business for 36 years, and thankfully I've had a lady alongside of me, my wife, for 35 years. Our kids are all grown up. We have 3 grandchildren now. And as I spend most of my time traveling around the world visiting the Joint Force, she spends most of her time spending all my money shopping and things like that. So even when I retire in 2 years, I'm going to have to get another job to make sure my wife's lifestyle doesn't change. No, seriously. How many of you all in here are married? All right, then you know that your spouse serves alongside of you, and it's an important and integral part of our team here. So, first thing I want to do is welcome you here to this National Capital Region kind of backbone university joint senior enlisted leader course. How did we let you out of the chairman's dining room, Sergeant? You were holding that place together. I'm glad you're here, though, all right? Okay. So why have this course? Why do we need this course? Well, I'll tell you. You're going to learn about the non-commissioned officer and petty officer handbook. And in the complex world we operate in nowadays, I want you to pay particular attention to Chapter 6 and Chapter 7. Chapter 6 talks about service identity and joint warfighting. Chapter 7 talks about international roles of non-commissioned officers and petty officers. If you look at the world we are living in and operating in as a military, never in the history of our country has the line been so blurred between war and peace right now. If you look at World War II or World War I, there was an act that happened in the world. Our elected leaders went to Congress and said, we need a Declaration of War Act. Congress approved it, and we declared we were going to war. Doesn't work that way nowadays. Because of the speed of events that happen across the world and the number of aggressive acts that happen across the world, the president might say, a chemical attack in Syria? We're going to put 59 Tomahawk missiles on those chemical facilities and take them out, like that. Which is why you hear a lot in Washington where members of Congress will, hey, we need to be in the loop on all of this. But my point to you is this. We've been at war for 18 years against people like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and all these other terrorist organizations, and it ain't going to end anytime soon. So we've got to make sure that how we operate is fluid. And how do we do that? It's through empowerment and operating as a joint force. When I go to Iraq or Syria or Afghanistan and I get out on the ground, I routinely see young E5s and E6s that are operating. They might be from one service, the Army, and they might be operating alongside some airmen or sailors or Marines or Coasties alongside of them. You wouldn't see that 20 years ago. Prior to 9/11, we were a very parochial kind of force. The Army did Army stuff, the Air Force did Air Force stuff, and the other services did stuff in a parochial kind of lane. But with the growth of terrorism and with people like Russia and China, all of a sudden becoming even more major power competitors to us, it's caused us to have to focus and fight as a joint force. And I don't even tell you why Chapter 7 is important. It's caused us to fight as a multinational force. So as you all probably have experienced it already, that if you've been on a deployment, you've had partners to your left or right that might be from a different country. Heck, they may not even speak English. But we have a role and a responsibility to build relationships with them. I can tell you this, why this is so important right here and why you're in here. No other nation in the world has the kind of non-commissioned officer and petty officer corps that we do. We have some great partners. When you look at the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and several other countries around the world, they are great partners. But none of those nations trains, educates, trusts, and empowers non-commissioned officers and petty officers like the United States military. And General Dunford says it all the time. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago when I went up with him and he and Secretary Mattis testified before Congress, he repeated again, we have competitive warfighting advantages over any nation, state, or non-state actor, whether it's air, ground, maritime, nuclear, cyber, or space. But the greatest competitive advantage we have is in the human domain. And what we do to train, educate, trust, and empower people, specifically our enlisted leaders. And I can give you examples of around the world. I'm in Raqqa, Syria in October. The caliphate for ISIS. And I'm up on the roof of a building there, and the commanding officer for that entire operation is standing next to me. The main effort for the United States strategy to defeat ISIS. And that commanding officer wasn't even an officer. He was an Army Sergeant Major. Now, there was an officer on the ground. There was a colonel who was the doc. And where was he at? He was in the aid station. But generally, doctors aren't out there planning warfighting strategy. This Army Sergeant Major, who was his counterpart? A female Kurdish Brigadier General for the Syrian Democratic Forces. Almost unheard of in the Middle East region. And as I sat there and looked at this, I thought nobody in the Beltway, in Congress, at the administration, or in the hierarchy of the Pentagon will believe that this is the level of effort that we have going on here. Then back that up about a year ago when I went in there, when the battle space was less mature, and I'm out on the ground with the lead SDF company. There was 3 people, 3 Americans advising this company. 2 Army Green Berets and 1 little Air Force Tech Sergeant, Jt. And this Tech Sergeant was putting so much stunning on ISIS by bringing in RPAs and bringing in fast movers and attack aviation and everything that I didn't know how ISIS was holding out. And then I thought for a second, this is the only Air Force guy out there. In my eyes, he's the air component commander for the Defeat ISIS campaign. 26-year-old Air Force C6 out doing that. That's what we do. Or I get on the engine of one of our Navy ships, and there's a chief petty officer or a first-class petty officer that's running the operation of the ship down there, reporting to the commander up above. Or a master helmsman, quartermaster second class, driving the ship, reporting directly to the commander. Or in our Coast Guard, we've got petty officers that have non-judicial punishment authority. Am I right? Where's my coasties at? Some of these small stations, you'll see an E7 that could put some NJP on a dang petty officer third class. No other country in the world does that, ladies and gentlemen, and it's because of what we do to educate you. So, what I need you to do this week, I need you to do 3 things. 1, participate. Don't sit on your hands and just say, I'm going to get through this week. If you sit here and you don't participate, you've wasted your own time, but more importantly, all of these instructors who've given up their time to come in and teach, coach, and mentor you. Second is be respectful of each other. Doesn't mean you have to like each other, but you got to respect each other and respect somebody else's opinion. Because not everybody's going to agree with you. And last but not least, when you leave here, take the information you've learned, take it back to your organization, and whatever span of control you have of people, put that information on them. I'm telling you, courses like this are happening all over the United States military. Prior to this assignment, from 2013 to 15, I used to run a similar course like this on the Korean Peninsula. Powerful, powerful kind of course. Because the further to the left we get exposing you all to joint education, the better off you're going to be as you move down the road. And the better off we'll be as a military. Okay, the last thing I want to talk to you about is something I need your help on. It doesn't have anything to do with this course. But I think you all may know we have a deployability problem in the United States Armed Forces. Anybody know that? Anybody not know that? Which is why Secretary Mattis came out with a new policy letter on retention and deployment. Everybody know that? Which means you have to be, if you are non-deployable for more than a year, you will be processed for separation. And the approval authority is the service secretary. Now, why do we do that? Well, I can tell you, we have about 200,000 troops across the joint force that are labeled as non-deployable. Now, 100,000 of them, you can help right here. Because 100,000 of them are troops that haven't had their periodic health assessment, that haven't had their immunizations, that haven't sat in a dentist chair in over a year. That's deck plate level leadership stuff. That's what you get paid to do. Too many times, though, I see a first sergeant or a superintendent or a senior chief petty officer, somebody like that, that is taking a young man or woman to go do their appointments. In my thought process, where's the layers of leadership in between that service member and that senior enlisted person? Well, generally, it sits in this room right here. So I need your help with that. The other around 100,000 are non-deployable because they're either injured or they have medical concerns that go along the lines of being clinically obese. We have a severe problem with clinical obesity in the military. Almost 100,000 of those 200,000 troops are diagnosed as clinically obese, meaning that they're so obese, they got to have medical care to treat their obesity. That comes at a health care cost of $5 billion a year. The president campaigns, gets us a new budget, $700 billion this year, $719 billion next year. Right off the bat, we got to take $5 billion out to put it on some folks that can't even deploy to do their mission. And there's 3 reasons that we have people in those categories. 1, we don't PT enough or the right way. We don't eat the right way, and we don't recover the right way. We've got to get smarter on fitness and nutrition. Okay? It's not about training harder, it's about training smarter. And it's one of the initiatives that I'm taking here. But my point to you is this. In order to get after this problem, we got to have all hands on deck, meaning all of us got to be rowing in the right direction. And if there's somebody out there that's not meeting the standards, then we ought to get them to the standard. And if they can't meet the standard, then as impersonal as it might seem, then we have to send them on their way. We have to have a good balance of discipline and compassion in how we do business. But we cannot let compassion weigh down our discipline, which is causing us to have this over 200,000 non-deployable force. General Dunford's 62 years old. He ran the Boston Marathon last year in less than 5 hours. Okay? I'm 54 years old. Every day, I go out and figure out new ways to smoke the dog crap out of myself. Now, sometimes people do it with me. I'm down at the Ranger Regiment last Thursday, and them guys are always eager to smoke any visitors down there. But the point being is, there's no better way to get after this problem than leading by example. And if the chairman and I expect all of you to assist and get after this non-deployable problem, then we better be showing you what right looks like. And we're going to continue to do that. So I need you to help. I need your help, and I need you to get after the fitness down there and taking care of the troops so we can get after this problem. Okay, the last thing I'll tell you is this, and I mentioned it earlier. I want you to know where we're at as far as the military. And we've been hit hard by sequestration and continuing resolutions and unstable budgets. But now we have a 2-year budget that is significantly higher than we've had in previous years. So we will be able to get after the deferred modernization of our fleet and our forces. We'll be able to get after some maintenance programs that we haven't been able to get at before. But more importantly, we're going to be able to leverage technology and continue to get our force more lethal and more prepared to face people like Russia or China or North Korea, and certainly somebody like ISIS. We have competitive warfighting advantages in every domain. I mentioned that to you. We can absolutely meet our alliance commitments, and we can still defend our homeland, even with all of that stuff going on. And the bottom line, we're still the greatest military in the world. So good luck this week. Enjoy yourself, learn, participate, take back your information and put it on your subordinates or your peers or superiors, and let's continue to build on this greatest competitive advantage we have in the United States military. That's our enlisted force. So thank you all very much, and enjoy the week. Thanks. Questions or no?
You can questions.
All right, have a seat.